Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how and why this AK-47 came off of the Brandon Apocalypse must-have list. It's not a list that I update too often. I just, when I need to update it, I update it. So it's been many years since I did it, and this year I changed. And one of the changes was that the AK-47 came off of it. And we're going to talk about why and what went on kind of in its place, okay? So first, let's talk about this gun over here. This one over here has about 10,000 rounds on it. Now this one, when I bought this originally, it had the wooden furniture, both here and here. Took that off, put a collapsible stock over here, especially very useful, especially for women who can, because the gun is front heavy, they can bring it a little closer to their body so they can shoot it. Okay, so that was the first change I made to this gun. Second change was I took off the wood from up here and I put on a rail. My main concern was getting an optic on here to a stable platform, right? And also having a place to put a light, and then having a place to put a sling, right? Because there's a QD mount point over here. Okay, so you need a place to put a light, you need a place to put your optic, you need a place to put your sling. Other nice thing about this rail, right? Because the wood does a good job of insulating you against the heat. But what I did is I got these little plastic covers over here, which allows you to hold the gun longer as this heats up, okay? Because AK-47 does get hot by the time you get to your third magazine, okay? It does get pretty hot. So this gun over here, I have shot 3.5 inches at 200 yards, okay? So at 100 yards, I shoot better than 2 inches with this gun. Not all the time, but when I'm shooting good, I can shoot better than 2 inches. And if I match it up to the right ammo, having the right ammo is a big factor. I did shoot those tight groups with steel case, but it was selected. So the way it works with steel case, this one was Wolf Polyformance. Okay, that was the. But here's the thing: a lot of times you could be getting the same brand of steel case, and some lots are better than others. Okay, so what I would usually do is if I get a box, when I get a box in, I test it out at 100 yards. If I see that it's shooting really good, I take that box, I put it to the side, I mark it, distance shooting only. Okay, so I know that, hey, I got a box here of really consistent ammunition. So I select my ammunition for distance shooting. Okay, now one of the things that really allow me to shoot those great groups at that distance is having the optic mounted on top of the gas tube, which is a very stable platform. Okay, typically people will put a side-mounted rail over here and put the optic on top of that. Couple of problems I have found with that. First of all, it raises it pretty high, right? So usually when you put a side-mounted rail on this, when you put on a side mount, usually you have to raise your head up even higher. So now your jaw is basically on the stock, and of course the AK recoils a little harder, so you're feeling that through the bone of your jaw. So for a while, what I did is I had a riser on the stock. So now you gotta, you're adding 2 extra parts, right? You're putting the side rail, and you're putting a riser on the stock. I think I was lucky if I was hitting like 6-7 inches at 100 yards. Okay. The problem with the side-mounted rail is that it moves, it flexes. If you look at an AK-47 shoot in slow motion, you'll see that the whole receiver over here flexes. Okay, so these rivets that hold this mount in place, I mean, this whole area here is being, bent. So that's not going to hold zero over a long period of time over lots of rounds. Okay, so that's why I got away from the side-mounted rail, the side-mounted rail, and I went with the optic mounted on top of the gas tube. That has given me those great groupings, and it has held zero for a much longer period of time. Okay, the magazines that I have found that work great. These I love these. What are these? The clear palms. It's nice because they're very rugged. You can see your ammunition. Works great. Okay, so that's it on this gun. It's a great gun. Part of the reason why this gun fell off of this must-have list is because it's really hard for you guys to get a gun like this. They're not importing them. First of all, when you were it's been a very long time since you were able to import a complete AK and buy it. So what was happening is they're importing them, they're chopping them up, and they're rebuilding them. So now, how good of a gun you get depends on, the person that's rebuilding it, at the factory. Okay, so sometimes, a lot of people have kind of forgotten this, but back in like early 2000, a lot of these AKs were pretty crappy. Okay, so part of the reason why I'm keeping this, right, and I'll always keep this, is because I know this one shoots really well. Okay, I've tested it out. Even if somebody came along and offered me $3,000 for this, I wouldn't buy it because I don't know if I can replace it. Right, I'd have to, how many would I have to buy before I get to one that shoots the same groupings that this one over here shoots? Okay, so that's one of the reasons why this is not replaceable and not easily replaceable. And if when I had this gun on the must-have list, okay, it's kind of hard for you guys to go out and get this gun. Okay, you might get a gun that looks like it, but you may not get a gun that's as good as this. And even if you get it, you're gonna have to upgrade it, because right now, probably the easiest place to get an AK-47 is from Palmetto, and they charge something like $900. I had paid something like $500 when I bought this one. Okay, and that was expensive compared to the guys a few years back that were buying these for like $350. So nowadays you're gonna go to Palmetto. You buy this for about $900, which is a good place to start, because at least you're getting some consistency. If the gun doesn't work, you've got somebody that will give you a lifetime warranty on it. That's been around for a while and is going to probably continue to be around for a while. Okay, so that's why I would send you guys to Palmetto. The thing I don't like with Palmetto is that they're selling them in a form, that you cannot mount an optic on the gas tube, which means now you got to spend an extra $150 to $200 to get your AK optic ready. Okay, so that's the other thing I don't like is a lot of times they're selling them with these side folded stocks, which I think is just silly. Okay, I don't like the side folded stocks. I prefer a collapsible stock that I can have shorten it up for a woman, lengthen it up for a guy with really long arms. This is a lot more usable, a lot more convenient. It's not like you're gonna fold this over and basically hide this inside your jacket. Okay, it's still got a 6-inch barrel. Okay. So the side folding stock does not make sense with the AK-47. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why this gun fell off the list. You cannot you cannot easily buy it and know that you're going to get a gun that's going to shoot as well as the one that I have here. Okay, and if you get one, and I'll probably recommend you get it from Palmetto, you've got to put more money into it to get it to the point where you can put an optic on it. I don't know why they're not just selling it as a flat top, right? Because you can easily, make this a free floated, make this, free float this barrel, right? You can easily, obviously you're still going to have the piston on here, but you can easily have, do some work on the front trunnion over here, so that you can mount a rail just to one point on the front trunnion. Okay, so that's where I would. What I would recommend. The other thing is the best place to put an optic is right here on this piece of real estate right here, the front trunnion. I would like that to be a Picatinny rail, and then you can have a continuation of the rail over here. And I would also want a continuation of the rail back here, although the dust cover is not a great place to mount an optic, but it's still a good option to have. So there's no reason why this cannot just be a flat top going all the way across. Okay, so that's one reason. It's not the only reason, but that's one reason why the AK fell off this must-have list, because a lot of you guys can't buy it the way I bought it, and you would have to spend extra money to upgrade it. Okay, so sticking to the buying thing, right? The other thing is ammunition. Right now, as of right now, you can get AK ammo. Biden has said that he is trying to restrict that. I've got lots of AK ammo. I've got stockpiles of it. So if you buy an AK, you've got to build that up, because you don't know for sure what the future is going to be like as far as AK imports. I know Palmetto's making efforts to import machinery so they can build AK ammo here in the United States. That hasn't happened yet, but that's also another concern, being able to feed the gun. Okay, so there's the first issue of you buying a gun as good as the one that I have, right? Second issue is getting ammunition continually in the future. while Democrats are in control. Okay, that's kind of in question. It's not as questionable as I think it was several months ago. I think the Biden administration has lost a lot of momentum. There's, as they go forward, I think they're going to be able to do less and less things because they've just lost so much credibility. But that's still a concern. That's still a consideration. Okay. Now that's the AK-47. Let's now talk about what the other guns are on the list, um, which is an important factor as to why this fell off the list, right? Because here's the thing: ideally, I just want to have one gun that does everything and that will never break, and and that's it. That's not possible, right? First of all, you got to have a backup gun, so you're always going to have a pistol, right? And I chose a Glock Gen 3. This one's a Polymer 80, but I don't care. Any Glock Gen 3. I want it to be a Gen 3 because lots of parts out there, lots of people know how to fix the Gen 3s. The patents have expired on. So you need, at the very least, you need two guns, right? You need a primary gun, right? And then you need your backup pistol, okay? And then you need a hunting gun, right? You need something that you can hunt small game with, like rodents, squirrels. So you needed a 22, right? And then you also needed something like a shotgun where you can hunt, things that are moving fast, like rabbits or birds flying in the air. So you needed some type of a shotgun, right? So we can't have just one gun because we have numerous different concerns that we have to address. But within that, we want to have as few guns as possible. So one of the considerations is how durable the gun is and how easy is it to get parts and replace those parts and fix the gun. Okay, so initially, AK was on this list because of its legendary durability. Okay, and it is a very durable gun. It's also a gun that I have on this gun over here. I probably shot about 5,000 rounds before I even cleaned it. Okay, so it's a very durable gun that you can shoot for a long time without having to really do maintenance on it. Compared to the AR-15, which usually by 500-600 rounds I got to clean this gun. Okay, and usually I start noticing it. Like I'll see that the charging handle is sticking. I'll notice that I'm not getting a last round. The bolt won't lock open on the last round. And that's usually a good indication that I need to clean these guns. Right, those are the initial indications. Once I see those two things, I clean the gun, and I never get beyond that to the point where the gun's not working. Okay, so those are your two indications as far as you got to clean the gun. Unquestionably, AK-47. I mean, I've done good for at least 5,000 rounds without a cleaning. Okay, so but here's the thing, that's good, right? We don't have to clean the gun. But let's talk about durability as far as the gun not breaking. Okay, this gun over here went about 10,000 rounds before the recoil. Two things broke: the recoil spring broke, okay, and the muzzle slant broke. Okay, so muzzle slant breaking, not a big deal. Gun works without that. Recoil spring breaking, the gun won't work without that recoil spring. Okay, so luckily I was able to find a replacement. That's easy to find. You can find a recoil spring replacement. But the point is that the gun did break, and it was not usable. If I didn't have that part or I didn't have access to parts, the gun would not work. And that was around the 10,000 round mark. Now with ARs, these triggers, the triggers on these and the bolts are usually rated for about 5,000 rounds. They will go well beyond that. By 10,000 rounds, I have usually broken something in the trigger, right? Whether it be the hammer spring, that's something that breaks on me, right? When I do the high round counts. The other thing is the pins might break. That's happened to me. So by 10,000 rounds, something's gonna break in the trigger group, and usually something's gonna break in your bolt carrier. It might be usually it's the extractor. Okay, the extractor might break. The gas rings might wear out. The bolt itself might crack. The cam, might break. But by 10,000 rounds, something is going to break in your bolt. Okay, so when you consider that this broke at 10,000 rounds, this breaks, usually before 10,000 rounds, but we're still in that same ballpark region. Okay. By 10,000 rounds, something is going to break. Now, it just so happened that in this case, it was the recoil spring. It might have been something else. But here's the important thing. The parts for the AR-15 are a lot easier to replace. So the recoil spring on this a lot easier to very easy to replace. You just drop that in. But here's the thing: the trigger group. That's if something breaks in the trigger group, that's also pretty easy to replace. Okay, I haven't had to do that, but that is replaceable. How about the bolt now? With the AR-15, the bolts are drop-in. Okay, so I can, if a part of the bolt carrier breaks, I just take another bolt carrier, throw it in. I mean, usually the carrier itself is not going to break it, so I can just have a spare bolt, throw that in, gun's going to work. Okay, so the bolts themselves are pretty small. You can easily have extra ones, stored up. Now here's the thing: the bolt on the bolt on the AK-47, they're not necessarily drop in. Okay, and even if they do drop in, you have to headspace it. So the way you headspace on the AK-47 is basically you take out the barrel pin, and then the barrel has to be moved back and forth to get the proper head spacing, which I don't know how to do. Okay, and I don't know anybody, back in my immediate area that knows how to do that. Okay, so that's an issue. Now, back in, I guess, 2009, when I made this list, okay, those were less of an issue because, first of all, I wasn't doing that much shooting at the time. Second of all, the information out there, YouTube wasn't a big thing yet, right? I think YouTube started sometime around 2006. By 2008, I don't think there were that many detailed gun videos out there, at least none that I had seen. So usually when people looked at AR-15s did have jamming problems, but the jamming problems were because of the magazines. Okay, so when the problem with the old AR magazines is that they did not have the anti-tilt follower. When PMag came along and they gave us the anti-tilt follower in the magazines, the AR-15 became a very reliable gun. Okay, other than the fact that you got to clean it, it's a very reliable gun. And the problem with the ARs was not the gun, it was the magazines. Okay, and we started using the PMags. I shifted over to Lancers. The gun is extremely reliable. So that's a significant factor here, because part of the reason why the AK was on this list, okay, is because I really didn't trust the AR at that time. In fact, the only reason why the AR was on that list is because I knew a lot of people had it, and I didn't have all that much experience with the AK. I had some experience, but not all that. So I said, you know what? Let me have two guns on this list. In case one breaks, I got the other. So one kind of made up for the other. Okay, a lot of that was based on confidence. Okay, people at the time were talking about the AR more accurate. Now again, the accuracy problems, and I could see this. I could see that AR was more accurate than this AK, but that had everything to do with the fact that the optics were mounted on a side rail that would move. Okay, so the accuracy problem was based on the accessory rather than the gun itself. So and again on the AR-15, the reliability problem on this was based on the magazine, not the gun. Okay. So once I figured out what the problem was with the AR, now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, let's reassess the situation. And it really took me a long time before the AK came off of this list. And the other things that we talked about were more of the contributing factors. However, the fact that this gun is now a lot more reliable has proven reliability that I wasn't aware of, right? Had not experienced back in like 2009, 2010. Because remember, in 2009, 2010, we're coming into this with the experience of all the other people before us, right? The people from, people were talking about what the gun had been doing for the 10 and 20 years before that, right? So based on that experience, in 2008, 2009, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, we definitely need an AK on this list because AR is a little bit more accurate, or seems to be more accurate, but there's an issue with the durability there. Okay, so at this point, I'm like, okay, this gun is very durable. All you gotta do is clean it. This gun is hard for people to get. You know, when the parts break, you cannot easily replace the parts. That's a big thing, right? You cannot drop in, you just can't get another bolt, drop it in. You can't even do that with the firearm, because one of the things I said back in 2020, I said, you know what, fine, you know what, the bolts need to be headspace. I don't think I want to mess with that until I actually have that problem. Let me at least get some extra firing pins for my AK-47. So then when I started doing some research, I found out that there's different size firing pins, and it's not like one firing pin is automatically going to fit whatever AK-47 you have. And at that point, it's like, okay, you know what? I don't know what to buy. I'm not going to buy a firing pin until I actually need a firing pin, okay? You know, I'll cross that bridge when I get it. So again, these are all factors as to why the AK-47, which I do love, but it fell off of this list. It's not that I don't want to have it, but I can't recommend to people that are new coming into this game, run out and get yourself an AK-47. I think they should have it, but that's not the gun that they should be. It's not one of the first guns that they should be getting for the Brandon Apocalypse. Okay, so let's go a little bit beyond that now. We talked about the AR. So part of the reason why the AR went up, its stock value went up, is because of the improved magazines that gave it better reliability. The other important factor is the 22 conversion bolts, because that knocked the Ruger 1022 off this list, right? Ruger 1022 was on this list for, you know, since like 2009, right? I have found that this is actually a lot more reliable. Ruger 1022 is a pain in the ass to take apart and clean, okay? This is a lot easier to pull out and clean. The magazines, in fact, are a lot more reliable than those BX25s. You know, those that sometimes they'll wiggle a little bit and the gun will jam up. So again, that increases the value of the AR-15, and it's pushing more in the direction of one gun that does more things, right? You know, I can't shoot the 22 through the AK-47. Although they do make a conversion bolt and a conversion barrel, it's, you know, now it's not just a bolt that you need now. Now it's also a barrel. So, you know, there's no reason. I mean, you know, it doesn't have the same size diameter bullet. It makes a lot more sense to have the conversion 22 for the AR versus trying to get one for your AK. Okay. Now the other thing, the other reason why this fell off, and the 9mm AR went on. Okay, why did this go on? Right. Well, there are. First of all, this takes the same magazines as the Glock. Okay. This takes Glock magazines. Okay. So basically, this is kind of like a super pistol now. Okay. You know. So the other great benefit that this gun has is that it takes the same trigger group as the AR. Takes a lot of the same furniture. It's already set up for an optic, right? You know, it's got the M-lock rails. So, you know, it seems like there's really too small of a jump from here to here. Now, another real benefit of this in 9mm is I got here a 10.5-inch barrel. If you're gonna have a short, if you're gonna have a short barrel, if you have that with an AR or an AK, what happens is you get tremendous muzzle blast and the gun is extremely loud. Okay, so having that short barrel in 9mm, you know, gives me the benefits of a shorter barrel, but also, you know, I don't have the extra muzzle flash, and I don't have the extra loudness. Okay, so this actually a 9mm rifle sounds like a 5.56 suppressed. Okay, in fact, it sounds even a little bit quieter than that. So that's a reason why this should be on the list. And in a manner of speaking, this replaced the AK-47. Okay, but it's really a combination of the two. Okay? It's really the AR and the and this Palmetto PX9 together in combination, knocking out the AK, because we have here basically the AR's utility and reliability went up. And then we have a gun here that works with both of these guns, right? It takes the same magazines as this gun, has a lot of the same internal parts, trigger group, extractor, as the AR. You know, it's already set up for an M-lock rail. So this is a really small investment, you know, as far as and I'm talking about investment in terms of money, but there's a small investment as far as maintenance, as far as having extra parts to support the gun, extra magazines to support the gun. So it makes sense for this gun to be on the list. Now, the other benefit of this is 9mm is very compact. Okay, first of all, when you buy it, like 1,000 rounds of 9mm is pretty compact. Okay, so it makes sense for me to have a lot of extra 9mm, which also serves a potential hunting purpose. Right? I didn't mention this in other videos. Now, with we said we got the 22 conversion bolt here. 22 conversion bolt for hunting, whatever, rats, squirrels, raccoons. Well, actually, with raccoons, I'd probably go with the 9mm. But we could hunt small rodents with the 22 conversion bolt. We could hunt deer with the 5.56, right, using well-placed shots. Okay, but in a Brandon apocalypse type of situation, right, where you have chaos, you got bodies rotting on the roads, the now domesticated dogs and cats are going to turn wild. They're going to start eating those corpses. They're going to start multiplying, right? So now you're going to have wild dogs multiplying. You're not going to be, the deer are all going to disappear, right? So all the animals that we normally hunt are going to disappear. So realistically, you're most likely going to be hunting dogs and cats and eating them. Okay, the 9mm is very suitable for hunting dogs and cats. Okay, in the Brandon apocalypse type of situation, I'm not advocating that you kill and eat your dog. Okay, I love my dogs, but in that type of a situation where you got wild dogs and with growing populations, that is probably the animal that you would be hunting. And by using the 9mm, first of all, this is quieter. Okay, doesn't have that muzzle flash. You're conserving your 5.56 ammunition for the more dangerous humans, right? So you're conserving your 5.56 ammunition. The 1,000 rounds of 9mm, like I said, is very compact. So it makes a lot of sense for that gun to be on the list. Okay, and then of course you got your shotgun. We talked about, originally we started off with a pump, which quickly became a Sega 12. And then when the Sega 12s were not available for import anymore, we went to the Lynx 12. I've done many videos on the Lynx 12. Again, we do need that shotgun on the list because we need something that we can hunt fast-moving animals, with birdshot. I did a video on how much ammunition that you should have. The problem with the 12 gauge is that it's big and heavy. Okay, 250 rounds, shells, 250 shells of birdshot. Is the same weight as 1,000 rounds of 9mm or 1,000 rounds of 5.56. Okay, so it's basically 4 times heavier. Okay, so you have a limited amount of 12 gauge just because of its size and weight, which means that any animals that we can hunt with this 9mm AR, we're going to prefer to hunt with the 9mm AR. So if I do have some slugs available, to me for, but I'm not going to use up my slugs if I could be using this 9mm. Likewise, if I can be using this 9mm PX9, I'm not going to be using my 5.56 because that has a better self-defense capability, right, at longer distances. But then again, this does also have a self-defense capability. Okay, I mean, I did a video where I was hitting a 6-inch steel plate at 145 yards consistently, okay, with Tula steel case ammunition. Okay, you guys can, if you guys want to see that video, just search my channel name and Tula steel case at 145 yards. That video should pop up. Okay, so that's the reason why the AK-47 fell off of the Brandon Apocalypse must-have list. It's not because it's not a great gun. It's for all those other reasons that I said. Basically, the AR's stock value has gone up, and then the 9mm AR, right, the pistol caliber carbine, is a lot more compatible with both of these other guns, right? Takes the same magazines as this, takes the same internal parts is this. The furniture that fits on that will easily fit on that. It comes optic ready. So that's what knocked off the AK-47. I have a lot of respect for the gun. Like I said, I wouldn't even sell it for $3,000. Yeah, I can't tell people to go out there, and buy themselves an AK-47 when they're, coming fresh into this game. Okay. In fact, I realized this back in 2020, because back in 2020, I was going, as I was training a lot, first time gun buyers, right? People were calling me up asking for recommendations on what gun they should buy, and I couldn't tell them to go buy an AK-47. It just didn't make sense at the time. It just wasn't even a possibility at the time. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me. If you got other choices, put them in the comment section. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe and hit that bell button so you get notification of new videos I put up. Talk to y'all soon.